Great Scott!
Are you a sports fan who loves to have a good laugh?
Oh, yeah!
Then you're in the right place.
I'm gonna make him an offer again.
Life moves pretty fast.
Patriots win the
Welcome
Super Bowl!
to the Man Cave Chronicles.
Brady has his fifth!
Welcome to another episode of the Man Cave Chronicles podcast, a podcast of talk culture where everyone has a story. I'm your host, Elias. You can find me on Twitter at the MCC Podcast. My guest this week, he's best known for his role as Chuck Larabee in Last Man Standing, Jonathan Adams. Jonathan, welcome to the cave.
Well, happy to be here, man. Very happy to be here.
How are things with you?
Oh, man, things are great. Things are really, really great. I'm happy the show's coming back.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the show. I think a lot of us are excited that it's coming back. You know, you guys took a year off, but maybe come back stronger now.
Yeah, but we didn't plan to take a year off, but yes, we did take a year off.
Yeah. So, what's the most exciting thing going on right now? I mean, I know the show is coming back in the fall, hopefully. Is that what the plan is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to be back on the air. You know, we start shooting in August.
Okay.
And I don't know, probably late September, there'll be episodes on the air, and
yeah,
we'll be rolling.
All right. So let's get a little bit of a story about you. I know you. I read online you grew up in Pittsburgh. How was it?
Big Steelers fan.
Big Steelers fan. I'm calling from Massachusetts, so I'm a Patriots fan.
Sorry about that.
How was it growing up in Pittsburgh?
Oh man, yeah, it was great. I mean, it was it's a medium-sized town, and it's a city. And I grew up basically, I wouldn't call it the hood, but it was kind of close to the hood.
Yeah.
Wilkinsburg, which is right outside near Homewood, which is a relatively bad neighborhood. But when I grew up, Wilkinsburg wasn't that bad. It got a little bit worse later on.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was fine, man.
Yeah. What were you into as a kid? What did you enjoy doing?
What was I into? What did
Yeah.
I enjoy doing?
Yeah.
Let me see, man. I was a big reader. I was a reading kid. I was that kid you'd always see with a book in front of him.
Yeah.
I was also that kid who later on I started playing. I was like the D&D geek, and I was into I call myself a blurred, like black nerd, like I'm like the original blurred. That's what I call myself because that's what I was. If you think of all those kids who were into space and science and J.R.R. Tolkien and all elves and dwarves and stuff like that. That was totally me.
Yeah.
So I'm reading Heinlein and Tolkien and all that kind of stuff, just geeking out.
Yeah.
I was a geek.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, well, no, there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
Nothing wrong with
no.
that. I had glasses, and so I was like kind of pudgy until I was like 13. I grew like 6 inches in a year, stayed the same weight, so I went from being short and pudgy to tall and skinny, and which was a weird thing, and my voice dropped, and a big thing with all my friends is I could all of a sudden do a Darth Vader imitation, and they were really pleased about that.
Yeah.
From the age of 13.
Yeah.
They were like, "Whoa, dude, do Darth Vader." Yeah, that was me.
So while you were growing up, what did you start playing around with acting and everything, or was that after when you got older?
I grew up and I didn't want to be an actor. Like I said, I was a smart kid. I was did all the dance classes when I was younger, and then I was totally on this track. I really wanted to be. First of all, my first thing I wanted to be was an astronaut. I loved space, and I was really into I'm going to go to space. I'm going to make that happen. And then, like I said, I grew 6 inches in a year. And then I realized that, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of astronauts are relatively smaller dudes. They're under 5'9" and usually under 150 pounds. They're smaller dudes. and because you want to use less resources, space. And it's a small space and all that kind of stuff. And I grew, like I said, 6 inches in a year. I went from 5'5" to 5'11".
Wow.
And I was like, I thought, man, I'm just too big now. Like I'd never make it. And my vision was pretty bad too, because most of those dudes are pilots. And so then I thought, okay, all right, now I'm gonna be a doctor. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go into medicine. I'm gonna be a doctor. And then I just totally fell in love, like in the 6th grade, with theater, and it was totally accidental, man. It was about a girl. So
Is it always like that?
yeah, it's always about a girl.
Yeah.
So like my friend Kevin, there was this girl I liked, and not to say her name, but my friend Kevin said, "Oh man, she's in drama club. That meets after school in such and such's classroom." And so I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna go check out drama club." Never acted before, never done anything in performance wise, But you're 11 years old, 12 years old, or however old I was, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna check this out." And I got there, and there was a kid who didn't come that day, and I ended up reading this part. And the teacher, Mr. Marks, was like, "You know what? You're really good." And that kid kept not coming, and I stole the kid's part. That was my introduction to acting. So I ended up playing the role on the little 6th grade production of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There I was. That was my introduction to acting, and that's it.
Yeah. And then from there, you went to high school, and did you continue acting there in the theater?
Yeah, I went to high school, and I didn't do much of like the drama in school, like the speech and debate, because in my high school they were all about the musicals, and I was not into musicals. First of all, I can't dance, and like I can only carry a tune like just so far, and like that just was not my thing. And I didn't understand musicals, you know what I mean? At that age, I was like, I don't understand why they're singing now. I don't get what's going on. I would really just, I don't know what's all this. I just didn't get it. And so I didn't do any of the musicals in high school. So I just ended up doing like speech and debate and stuff like that. And then I went to college for acting at Carnegie Mellon, which is in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So from there, how did you? Do you remember after you finished college and everything? How did you? Did you move to L.A. or New York or anything like that, or did you stay around in Pennsylvania?
Well, here's the story. I didn't finish Carnegie Mellon. I did not get my degree there. I kind of basically ran out of money, and then I was working really. I mean, it was a very expensive school, right? And I didn't have much money. My parents didn't have much money. And it was just me doing it, right?
Yeah.
And trying to arrange the student loans, and I didn't know anything about any of that stuff, and I screwed a few things up in terms of the loans and stuff like that, and I ended up like not finishing. And I remember like I was there for a year and a half, or maybe 2. It was a second semester sophomore year. That's when I left, and I remember like it just my grades were going down because I was trying to figure out what to do next in terms of trying to make money.
Yeah.
And then I left, and then I spent like a few months like at my mom's house, just kind of growing stubble, and just because I couldn't grow a beard at that point, just growing stubble on my face and not just in a robe most of the time for like 5 or 6 months, and then a friend of mine was like, you should try out for this thing. And so I started, trying out for things around Pittsburgh, got a few like theater roles, and just my first paying gig was at the City Theater in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And I did that. Who was it? I can't remember the name. Who wrote that? It was Arthur Miller. And yeah, and it was like $120 a week. I was so happy. I was like, woohoo! And it was my first paying gig as an actor, 1987. And then, I don't know if you knew, but like in the 80s, Pittsburgh in the 80s and 90s, early 90s was like a really big, it could disguise itself as any town, any like northeastern town or even like southern town, like in the country, because it has, there's so many different areas in it that, you could shoot. And so, producers loved it because it was cheaper than New York and, Atlanta at that time or any of those places. And, the weather was fine. So in the summertime, the movies would come in. And so I would get like, small roles in movies that came into town. I can't remember, the first one was like something called Equal Justice or something like that. It was a pilot. I ended up, playing this role in that. And those were my first like film and television credits. And so I would like spend my summer, I would get like 2 or 3 weeks on a movie and, get a good amount of money to me at that time, for a 21-year-old kid, to just, make it through the summer in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just cruise through the summer and then I'd go do another, play and just, cruise through that. And so I started working, at the age of, 20, 21 years old as an actor in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for like 3-4 years, just making a living. I was kind of living at home, but not really. But just, I was doing it, so that was my job. I was an actor.
And you worked hard for it, job after job.
Yeah, and I worked hard for every single little job I got, I don't know if you know theater, man. Theater, which is what I did after that, all over the country for like 10 years. Theater, you do 8 shows a week. You're there all the time. You're there from Tuesday through Sunday. It's a grueling schedule. It really is. I mean, the rehearsal schedule is grueling, and then the performance schedule is even worse. It's just ridiculous. If you're trying to do a lead role in a play on stage, 8 shows a week, it is just draining. Yeah. Which is why you got to be young, to do that, I think, or make sure you have an understudy do the matinees or something like that. So
yeah,
you can rest.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. There's probably days where you were doing 2 plays a day, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You get matinee and a show at night. So yeah, like a 2 and an 8 or 2 and a 7.
Yeah. And you toured all over the country. At least, you get to see the country at the same time, but you're also working, like you said.
Right.
Yeah.
I ended up doing a couple of. Well, it wasn't really a touring company. Like the first big gig I got was Fences. It was like in whatever 90, something like that. And like, it wasn't a touring company per se. It was a shared production.
Okay.
With these 3 theaters, like all over the country, which got me to introduced to these people who I would never have otherwise met all over the country. So I think it started in Texas and then moved to Milwaukee and then moved to Arizona. So, I got a chance to work at these theaters that I would never, and meet these people I would not have otherwise met. And after that, I ended up actually moving to Wisconsin because I would work with Milwaukee Repertory Theater and APT Theater out in Spring Green. So if you have theater geeks listening, they all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then, and then I moved to Oregon. So that was another thing.
Yeah, I read that it had some kind of Oregon theater festival, right?
Yeah, I was at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival for 5 years.
Okay.
Which is just which was just great, man. It's just a wonderful place to work, and just such incredible work they do up there. Just such high quality theater, and I'm looking forward to maybe doing it again up there at some point in my life if I can get the time.
Yeah.
But I'd love to work up there again, and I loved working up there. But I was up there. I did Taming of the Shrew. I didn't do Othello. I understudied Othello, but I went on, which officially you kind of did do Othello. And then I did like Cymbeline, and all these plays that you like you hardly ever get a chance to do,
Yeah.
and all these wonderful old words that are just like jazz. So I had a great time.
So you have like you have many talents, I guess. You do your theater, you've done your Hollywood, and you've also done voice acting. How did you fall into voice acting and doing all those comic cartoons?
Well, voice acting is to me it's a natural, and I always explain to people that it's you're just what's the word? I mean, you get a chance to make everything your voice. And when you're acting on stage, when you're acting on camera, you have to worry about, when you're acting on camera, you got to worry about your eyes and your hands and your face and your movements, and everything means something. And when you're doing voice acting, the only thing that means anything is your voice. So it's really fun to hone yourself down to that only particular thing for a little bit,
Yeah.
It's kind of like using only one color or using only one, just one dimension. You're it's all about your voice. And I got into it because my wife said, you know what? I mean, you have a beautiful voice. Why aren't you doing voiceover? I was like, I don't know. First of all, I was a theater geek. See, I went from being a Tolkien geek to a theater geek, and I was like, I'm an actor. That's not acting. And that's how I thought of it. And then I got into it, and I was like, no, it is. It really is. And I remember the very first animated gig I had was an animated Doctor Strange out here in L.A.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember 15 years ago. But I played Dormammu, and I was just surprised at the high level the scripts were at. How good the scripts were, and the things I got to say, or those are the kind of things you only get to say like in Shakespeare or in a play. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And so I was kind of bitten by that bug once I realized what it was.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite cartoon that you've done?
Favorite cartoon. Yeah. What's going to sound funny is that in terms of animated stuff that I've done, I loved doing Guardians of the Galaxy, and I loved doing Atrocitus in Green Lantern.
Yeah.
But my favorite, actually, strangely enough, was Absorbing Man from Hulk and the Agents of Smash. And I don't know if you ever listened to that or heard that. I got to do a New York accent and be this big giant guy. He was always really tough, and this is who he is. And I was like, oh, this is just fun. I never get anything like that. You know what I mean? Because most of the time, you see me physically, and you're like, he's never going to talk like that. So it's fun. It's fun to bring out all these different voices.
Yeah.
And,
did you read comics? Did you read comics when you were a kid?
Did I read comics? I told you I was a blurred man. Yes. Yes, I read comics. Yeah. I read X-Men, and I was marveled out, man. I read X-Men. I read Fantastic Four. I read Spider-Man. My favorite definitely was Fantastic Four and the Silver Surfer days with Galactus and, the Planet Eater and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was, in like the 70s.
It seems like you're always.
Right,
It seems like you're always playing the villains in those cartoons, also.
I know, right? You get, but it's the deep voice, and the only time I get to play like a heroic character is on a video game.
Okay.
Tyrael on Diablo 3. I don't know if you're friends of, or if anybody has ever played Diablo 3, they know who I'm talking about. He's the Angel of Justice, and he gets to be just and good and kind and all that kind of stuff, and carry a big sword and fight folks and be on the right side of justice.
Yeah. Do you ever get invited to like Comic Cons because of the voice acting that you do?
I went to, there's BlizzCon. I've been to that a couple of times. That's the one with Blizzard, because that's Diablo 3 is a Blizzard product, and I've been to Comic-Con one time. Yeah, that was something. And there's a lot of spandex. Yeah, you could tell dudes' religions really quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really something. Yeah, and there's just a lot of geeks just like me.
Yeah.
It's my people. And it was fun.
Did you have fun at, meeting fans and signing autographs for them?
Yes, I did. And there, especially at BlizzCon, there was this one dude. Okay. Diablo 3, the character Tyrael is this beautiful angel, and you can't see his face at first. And he's got, these wings, and he carries this big two-handed sword, this Eldruin, it's called, right? This dude had this character in a tattoo over his entire back. You hear what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Like from the nape of his neck to to his waist. This entire character, this Angel of Justice guy, on his entire back, and I took a picture of his back with me. So it's remarkable. These fans, man, they are just some of the most incredible fans in the world. I mean, I love them, but they are rabid. It's great.
So, like we mentioned earlier, Last Man Standing is coming back on Fox, and the whole cast is returning. Before I have some questions written down for that, but let me first tell us about your audition for Last Man Standing. Like, how did you fall into that?
Well, it's the perfect story, man, because it's one of those things where you're, as an actor, this is what you want to do, because you don't want to go through, which I've done it before, the whole pilot process and getting the network audition. Those things are bare. They're just horrible. Absolutely horrifying. I'll tell you about it if you want to hear about it.
Sure. Take
a note. But this is the best thing, because what I did was I just auditioned for a guest star, for a one-day guest star on the show. Chuck Larabee, the neighbor, and Erica Alexander. I got there, and Erica Alexander was my wife. I just auditioned for a guest star. One audition, got there. They were like, "You're great. Come on, we'll have you aboard." I played that first show, and apparently they liked it, and they had me back they had the character back for another episode. And I was like, okay, that's cool. That's never going to happen again. And then they had the character back for another episode. So it turns out in that first season I was on, I did like 5 as Chuck Larabee, the neighbor. And I was like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then the next year, I was still a guest star. And then at the end of that year, they were like, you know what? We want to have you as a regular for the next season, because I'm still auditioning for other things. I'm still trying to get into the pilot. They don't commit to you. You can, go ahead and get a role. And then they just approached me and said, "Do you want to be a regular?" I was like, yeah. And then there it was.
Yeah.
And still, to this day, you could never. When I started this show, before I did the show, you could not have told me that one day I would have like a rapport with Tim Allen and Jay Leno.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I know.
You know what I mean? Like, we work well together. And that nobody could have told me that.
Well, that's what I've written down. I wrote down that your chemistry between just you and Tim, every time you like talk to each other, it's like really funny.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Because what happens is what happens to me is I know what he's going to say, and he knows what I'm going to say about what he's going to say, and it just becomes this synergy of us going, yeah, okay. You know what I mean? We're not, we are we know what each other is about,
Yeah.
and I think that's really cool. And they still like each other, which is also really cool. It's like, okay, we may not agree, but we still like each other, which is, what I'm saying, rare in this day and age. But
Yeah. How is it working with the cast and Tim and Jay?
they're fun cast. They're family. They're just some of the nicest people in the world. It's great. I mean, I really don't have anything. I wish I did. You know what I mean? I wish I had like some bad stories.
No.
But I don't. I don't have any. Like, oh man, he's like, oh, and she. No, they're the best people, and I feel really, 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 really privileged to work with these people. I mean, Hector Elizondo, Nancy Travis. Hector is a legend, and I want him to be my mentor. I keep trying to make him my mentor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You ever have an older dude, you just go up to him and you're like, teach me please. And you don't say it really, but you just kind of keep thinking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you go up to him and keep learning and gleaning things from whatever he's saying. And that's what I'm doing with Hector. He doesn't know it yet, but he's my mentor.
Yeah.
Nancy is just one of the sweetest people in the world. Molly and everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody is just great. They're great people.
Is Leno now a series regular too, or is he still more like a guest?
He's a guest star, but he comes on when he wants to, and he's funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's very funny. It's fun working with Jay. Yeah. Jay is great.
And it's funny how he's playing the whole mechanic thing because he's into cars and everything.
Yes, exactly. And the first day I met Jay Leno, all right, now here's my story about Jay Leno. Jay Leno, the Jay Leno you saw on the couch, that really inquisitive guy who really wants to know, at the desk and the guy on the couch and he's talking to, that's Jay Leno. You know what I mean? The first time I met Jay Leno, I ended up telling him my whole life story. Oh, Jonathan, where you from? What do you do? And by the time I was done with the conversation, I realized I didn't learn a thing about Jay Leno, but Jay Leno knew everything about me. So and we were just talking, I was like, dude, that is him. It's so, he's so easy to talk to, and he's very inquisitive.
Yeah, he seems like
he makes you feel special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how was it the first time you met Tim Allen? How did that go?
It was great, man. He was great. He busts your chops, and that's cool. And I bust his chops right back, and so we're cool.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing. It's a good relationship. And the first time I met him, first time I met him, I was a little intimidated because I watched the Home Improvement series. Yeah. I watched all my kids watched all the come on, man, the Santa Claus movies.
Yeah.
And I watched the first season of Last Man Standing before I was on it. I was just watching the show. I liked it. And so I was a little intimidated, but what I always realize is that people are people.
Yeah.
You can't, everybody has to do the same things, everybody has to eat, and and shop and take care of their family and keep a roof over their head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody is people,
Oh, yeah.
so you can't be that intimidated by anybody. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Because everybody has to do what they have to do.
Actually, my wife had a question for you about Last Man Standing. She said, like, when you became a series regular, your wife that plays on the show kind of like backed off and disappeared. What happened with that?
I know, right? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I wish I had a good answer for her, but I love Erica. I'd love to have her back. I mean, I don't know. I personally think it might have been, I don't know. I don't have any, concrete anything. I just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Hey, maybe we'll see her back for the new season. Who knows?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody who's involved in the show has said they want to come back. So
That's good.
hopefully, keep fingers crossed. We'll see my wife again.
Yeah.
And we're not, we're not divorced yet. But they did have her like go away.
Yeah.
She's off doing something. I can't remember what it was from last season, but
Yeah. Did she go away to teach or something? I think she went away to teach or something, right?
yeah. So, and we also explained it like, oh, I'm okay because we're used to long time being apart because I was in the Marines.
Correct.
So.
Do you have any future projects other than Last Man Standing that's coming back that you want to talk about or promote?
What's funny? I did this Lego Aquaman, superhero thing that was supposed to go straight to video.
Okay.
And they're going to release it on screens in July.
Wow.
But it's Lego Aquaman. Oh, I can't remember. I know it's just Lego Aquaman superhero. I play Atrocitus again.
Okay.
So it's all, it's the whole Justice League fighting Atrocitus with Aquaman as the main dude. And that's coming out in July. So I'm like, that's weird. I really thought it was just going to go straight to video and then like going to be on Disney Channel. But no, it's going on. They're going to put it on air, and then there's a couple things I can't talk about.
Yeah.
Because they're video games, and I signed an NDA until they came out. So yeah, so that's all I got.
All right. And how can the listeners find you on social media?
Yeah, I'm John Adams VO on Twitter, and that's all. I don't really do that much social media.
Okay.
I'm gonna get a publicist, and she says I have to be on Instagram. I don't even know how to do that. I'm a little lost. I'm so behind. It's strange because I'm just from a different, I guess, different generation, different time or whatever. And it is not my thing.
Yeah.
But I got to make it my thing.
Yeah. Seems like every day it's all about social media now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good way to get to have your fans get to know you and have people, know who you are and connect. And they feel personal about it. And I like that. And I love meeting fans. I love shaking hands with people, and I love signing autographs, and I love it when I love to make people feel like, well, no, I do feel like I appreciate them. You know what I mean? I really do feel appreciative of their love of the show or the work that I'm doing, and I think it's a special thing, and I love meeting fans. So, I mean, you would think I would love doing social media, but I just don't.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just lazy. What do you think?
I mean, some people just don't like social media, which it's understandable.
Right.
Then there's other people that I've had on the show. They say they'll do Twitter just for posting things about politics, which I don't even care about that kind of stuff. And then there's other people that they keep that separate and they keep their Instagram for their fans, or vice versa.
Right. Yeah. Well, Twitter and stuff and all politics. Oh, it's so dangerous.
Exactly.
It's so perilous.
Yeah.
Like I really don't want to turn people off because of the way that I feel about things, but I do want everybody to have their own opinions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just it really is dangerous.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. You
anyway.
have to watch what you say on social media because you say the wrong thing and then your career is gone or your job is gone.
Bam. Right. That's it, man.
So
it's over.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
All right. So I want to personally thank you for coming on. This was fun. I can't wait for the show to come back. And I hope
I
hope
feel like-
you come back on the show again.
I hope so too.
Thanks so much for listening to the Man Cave Chronicles. Follow them on Twitter at the MCC Podcast. We'll catch you next time.